Okay, so this next series of videos is all about movement. Movement is important for all the reasons I just talked about. I love this, is my favorite part. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit and let's look at sensory input. And when I receive that sensory input, I have to process that. Okay, and when I process it, I have some emotional response to it as well as a motor response. I'm moving. There's some sort of movement in order to respond to how I process that input. And then through movement, I then get more sensory input in some way, okay? We don't need to go through examples, I think you get it. So let's go back to our pyramid. We looked at the last series of videos, we looked at the bottom layer. We looked at the sensory systems. We looked at the, and what that means as far as regulation. Getting vestibular input and bringing my alert level up and getting proprioception and bring my alert, helping me focus and organize and tactile, all of those things that help with the regulation and talking about that kind of input. So now let's look at the next tier, the sensory motor development. On this pyramid is labeled sensory motor development. That's movement based. And we're gonna look at these three bottom layers. Movement, in order for me to function and do things, to attend and have good behavior at the top of the pyramid, I need to move. Movement, functional movement, fluid movement requires certain things. One of them is postural security. I need to have a strong core. I need to have stability around my joints. The hinge things that move in my body need to hinge. Things also need to coordinate in a fluid way in order for me to do things. As well, I also need to motor plan all of these movements and sequencing and timing in order to do them effectively. Okay, and that's what we're gonna look at first, is these three things. So let's look at something specific. This next period, this is from the Child Success Center. They have an excellent website. There's some really amazing information on there. I highly recommend going to check them out. But they've made this really cool pyramid of handwriting. So let's look at the top. Our functional outcome would be legible handwriting. That's what we want, legible handwriting. But what do we need in order to have legible handwriting? Well, let's look one rung below that. So in order to have handwriting skills, I need letter formation, I need sequencing, I need speed, endurance. These things need to be there. In order for that to be there, I need that fine motor movement, okay? Fine motor is these three fingers working together along with my eyes and the feeling of my proprioception and my balance to do all these things. In-hand manipulation, a grasp, I need the correct grasp and grasp strength. I need pressure, the correct pressure and control. Even before I get to that fine motor stuff, my visual processing needs to be there. I need to be able to track things. I need visual attention. I need perception, depth perception. I need visual and motor integration. Eye-hand coordination has to work. Okay, so now you're seeing the link in the movement. And now we're gonna get into the kind of the meat of the stuff is balance, posture, stability. Those need to be there in order to get that fine motor stuff. My motor planning has to be there. I need to sequence the steps and plan out how I'm gonna take the pencil and apply it to the paper. Proximal stability, okay, I need again, that's that posture and that my trunk stability and rotation, that needs to be there. If I don't have proximal stability, distal mobility can be difficult, okay? Proximal stability equals distal mobility, and I need strength and endurance. So then we're gonna look at that. So let's rewind a little bit. Let's take a step back and look at movement as a whole and why it's so important with kids in development. Let's not even say, if you're watching this and your kid is struggling with some sensory difficulty, let's just take that to the side. This day and age, in the society we live in and the technologies we have and everything we have going for us, our kids are moving less. There's just less movement involved, all the way from how our babies are born and cared for, all the way up through adolescence. It's not necessarily things that are in our control all the time, or necessarily even our faults. Just things happen. Let's talk about that. Let's look at babies. So babies are awesome, right? So both my sons, they had to have a C-section. That had to happen. That has to happen. They have to get born. It wasn't working the way it was supposed to. So they were given a C-section. By missing that birth, coming through the birth canal, they missed certain movements, and that can have adverse effects on their nervous system and how they develop. It's not always the case, but there's some research to support that. We can get into primitive reflexes and all of that as well, but let's just look at the movement piece. So just having a C-section, I can just be aware, okay, maybe there's some other stuff going on because my kid had a C-section. Neglect plays a part in it. Abuse, Sometimes over swaddling a child, not restricting their movement. I know with my son, my youngest son, I swaddled the heck out of him because that would calm them down. At the same time, I'm restricting a lot of movement. Also, I was not aware of the importance of tummy time when I had my kid. I knew it, I understood it, the doctor told me to do it, but I really did not understand the immense importance of getting tummy time. And he was cried a lot when I put him on his tummy. So I was, okay, well, I don't want him to cry, so I'd flip him over and he was happier. So we missed him that tummy time. Kids also, easier for me to keep my kid in a car seat when I went somewhere, right? It was just easier because he liked to sit and hang out, and I could put his binky in his mouth, and it was like, oh, I had some peace and quiet when I'm at the restaurant. I can't let my kid just flop around and flop all over the place. But I'm restricting that movement. That has adverse effects. All of these, and there's a million other reasons why things may happen. Sometimes they're out of our control, sometimes they're in our control, but these are some effects of missing some movements. Other factors, as kids get older, right? We have more screen time. We have increased in technology. We've made things easier for ourselves, which helps reduce simple movements. And when we give that technology to kids or we restrict their movements, we're cutting out some of that development. Kids are engaging less with their hands. There's more screen time. Things are less manual. When I was a kid, just the fact I grew up with encyclopedias. If I wanted to know something, I had to get up, go and pick the book up and use my brain to figure out how to find something. Now I have an Alexa. Alexa, what's the largest river in the world? Okay, whatever. So I'm just using technology. We're in our cars more. We're more safety conscious. My kids don't walk from neighbor house to neighbor house because I'm terrified of someone driving up the street and grabbing them. Okay? I'm setting up play dates. It's not like when I was a kid where I could just leave my house and go across the street. Is someone home? No? Okay, go to the next house. And there's all that movement involved. There's kids are making decisions on their own. There's all of these other factors that are kind of inhibiting development at this young age. So let's go back to our pyramid again. Okay, so knowing that kids these days are just having more difficulties with getting the developmental movements that our bodies need in order to grow and function a little easier, a little better. Let's go back to the pyramid and look at what exactly I'm talking about. So we're going to looking at the sensorimotor development pyramid, looking at the very bottom three rungs, the green ones: postural security, bilateral awareness, and then we're going to look at motor planning. And those are kind of the three. I consider these the three pillars. In fact, I might even change this because I'm having a second thought on this. But in order for me to do things, okay, I need a sense of body. I need to know where my body is and how it operates, right? When you get in a car, you need to understand how that car operates. You can't just get in a car and drive if you've never seen one before. You need to understand that the wheel is round and that turns, the gas pedal hits the gas, this turns the car on, all these. You need to have a body scheme. You need to understand the shape of it, why things do the things they do. Same thing with your body. In order for me to have a body scheme, I need to have postural security. Okay, I need to have good posture in order for me to attend to a task. If I'm kind of flopping all over the place, it's really hard for me to kind of focus. And so that plays a part into attention. I also need to coordinate my limbs, bilateral awareness. Okay, there's limbs all over my body that need to coordinate with each other. Okay, fingers, hands, legs, eyes, ears, lips, right? Hands and legs, everything needs to coordinate. So the coordination of my limbs has to happen. As well, I also need that motor planning piece. When I'm intentional about focusing on these things, it does help me kind of build a body map and understanding where I am, while also taking into account all of the sensory things we talked about earlier, all the input, that as well. Now adding that movement piece and being intentional about the types of movements I do with my kid or make sure they get, that helps build that body scheme. Once I know where my body is and I understand how it works, that does help with regulation, which helps with attention, which helps with behavior, okay? So let's look exactly what I'm talking about.